Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is class 2 of 4 in our melting tongue to tail rooted sequence. So class 2 of 4, you'll need a chair, some blankets, and push and warmth for when we get to the floor. And then we'll come back to seated at the close of our practice. So come on into some kind of sturdy chair, couch, bedside, whatever works for you. And while we're getting situated, I'll just mention that if you are catching the replay of today, class 2 of 4, make sure you circle back to class 1 of 4 from last week in the portal. The sequence today will be more focused on regulation of our system, meaning our whole self feeling present and quote unquote regulated. And I mentioned in the email introduction for today how we can do the local techniques, for example, like massaging our jaw muscles, palpating around the sit bone and releasing pelvic floor tension directly or manually with our hands or props. But if there's a whole organism sense of, I don't have enough time, there's too much to do, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, right? If there's that overall upregulation in our system, it's going to be difficult to undo these tension patterns locally, right? Because there's an overriding message or belief or state that could be driving the muscular tension, right? So we're addressing more of that systemic piece today. And if this serves to create change or real benefit for you, it might serve you well to look at the restorative practices in the portal. So the nourished and rest restorative classes for a deeper down regulation in your system. We don't want to down regulate only or so much that then we end up sort of checked out or fuzzy foggy or numb, right? A state of collapse. We don't want to put ourselves under so far that then we can't wake up or go to work or do what needs to be done. And yet culturally, we live in the sympathetic soup, as it is sometimes called, right? We live in a culture that says more is better, keep going at all costs. And today we say, no, I'm gonna pause. And that's why you're here. So in your seat, take a moment to let all of that drop for now. And see if you can bring your awareness to yourself. And specifically into your body. Can I start to locate my physical self? And we might do that through sensations. We might notice how our breath is moving. We might notice the parts of us that are making contact with the ground or the chair. Trusting for yourself, if this baseline observation, if this feels challenging or you feel distracted, great, good information. That's what I'm noticing. No judgment needed. And trusting that as we move throughout class, that's our task for our mind. Continue to drop in, continue to observe, continue to sense our embodiment, ourselves through the body, okay? So we're gonna find our feet. You can come to the elbows or put your forehead into your hands. If you have a table or desk in front of you, you could also make a pillow with your hands and rest into that solid surface. So letting your bones support you, or the furniture and the floor support you. And while you rest here, notice the quality of the inward awareness of a conservation of energy, a returning to self. We can take some purposeful sighs or yawns. You're also welcome to explore sound. So inhaling through the nose, and then whatever sound happens on the exhale, let it come. Uh, uh. You can shift your weight side to side a little bit. Almost like the heels of your hands are kneading your temples, your forehead. You might sense that you have more saliva in your mouth. That's a good sign. We'll stay here for maybe 2 to 3 more breaths. Really let your feet get heavy on the floor. One more breath cycle if you would like. Let your mouth open with the exhale, or move your tongue and jaw around, and then slowly start to press into the feet. As your feet press the floor away, feel your weight shift back into your pelvis, your sit bones. Let yourself arrive upright. Staying with that quiet inward attention, take a little tip one ear to shoulder. And it doesn't need to be static, meaning you don't need to be still and hold the stretch. You can take a little circling of your chin, or a little nod yes. You could even put your hand on that place where you feel an opening or a stretch. Bringing a little warmth into that shoulder. Give yourself a little permission to lean to that side, and then press down through the sit bones. Come through to the other direction. So the other side of your neck is long. Exploring a little bit of movement. And notice, perhaps enjoy those connections right up to the ear, the nape of your neck. Using the micro movements or nodding as a way to kind of fine tune, like, oh yeah, right there. It's like a pet when we scratch behind their ears or scratch their butt right above their tail, how they're like, oh, so happy. Yes, thank you, right there. One more good deep breath, feeling the neck release. Maybe your hand is placed there for warmth. And then when you come to center, so chin to chest, coming to center, you can wrap one or both arms around you. You might hold the side of your face or neck. You might wrap around to feel the underarm and shoulder blade. Give yourself a few moments and full permission to feel this embrace of yourself. There's nowhere else I need to be but right here. You can let your arms or hands change position. And again, you might rest in stillness, or you might give yourself a little cradling, a little squeeze. Sound is always welcome. For the next few exhales, let yourself curl into your heart. Take a little bow with your head, let your eyes close a little heavier. Let your arms rest or drape into your body. Once again, sense the soles of your feet pressing down. Feel your sit bones rooting down to let yourself grow tall, slow and easy. Do a little easy brush down the arms or across the chest or up through the back of the neck. Taking a moment to zoom out, take in, okay, here I am. Am I more present? Do I feel more weighted in my seat? If you're feeling anything that's pleasant or shifting in the direction you want, just give a wave or a smile or a thumbs up. Yeah. So these simple acts of coming back to ourselves, which again, if you're feeling drooly, if you're feeling more spacious, if you feel taller, if your breath is a little bit smoother, all of those are good signs that our relaxation response is coming up to meet us, coming out of that systemic, sympathetic regulation back towards, I'm okay. I have all the time in the world. It's a very different way of operating, okay? We'll do one more piece with movement here. With our tongue, specifically curled up to touch the roof of the mouth when we curl into our seat. So our tongue up to the roof of the mouth as we take kind of a cat-cow. So tongue goes up while head and tail curl. And then sweep your head and tail back and stick your tongue out. So eyes down, tongue curls up. Eyes up, tongue long. Really let the strong muscle of your tongue go through these full range of motions. Totally coiled in, totally all the way out long. And the amount of movement in your spine is up to you based on what feels good. It can be very tiny or really big. Go 2 more rounds. Notice how your tailbone itself kind of mirrors what the tongue is doing, the coiling up and in. Long panther tail sweeping back. Good. Last one, and go 50-50, smaller. Recalibrate. Where are my sit bones? Find them right underneath you. We'll do a few sit to stands. So pitch forward from your hip crease. Nice long spine. Drop the hip crease down. Push the floor away. Come back to your hip crease to reach the sit bones back to your chair and find your seat. Doing your best to trust, okay, my bones are supporting me. The ground is sturdy. The chair hasn't moved. How efficiently can I let my legs push me up to standing? So no excess tension through the face, the shoulders, let the arms hang and follow along. Last couple. If you want to hover on the way down this time, come most of the way down, sit bones reaching back. Arms can counterbalance. Deep breath in and out. Trust some of the heat that you feel. And then sit bones back to the chair. Let that go. Good. So moment of hovering to say, it's okay to feel my heart. It's okay to feel heat in my muscles. It's okay to feel some sympathetic activation. Yay, we need both. Quick tie to pelvic health. If you do that on public toilets, please stop it. Okay, if you're hovering in the porta potty or in the public bathroom, that effort that we felt in our legs is similar to the effort we feel then also into our pelvic muscles, right? They can't fully release if we're supporting our weight trying to hover and pee. So as a general rule, actually sit down. There's been studies. The toilet seat is not going to make you ill, very likely. Just sit down. Okay, let's go to the floor. So come on down and have a couple of blankets or towels handy. We're going to go to our right side lying. And quite literally, we're going to curl up into a sideline fetal curl and rest. So you can have a little something under your rib cage, a bit of support for your head. Literally just going to add a towel for warmth or a blanket if you would like. Maybe something between knees and ankles. You're welcome to have your knees quite bent. So it helps you feel like you're not going to tip and roll. Okay, so knees coming up towards your belly. Go ahead and tuck yourself in or cover up for warmth. And if you would like, you can have your top hand cupped around the low belly or mons pubis or pubic bone or vulva. So however comfortable you are with hand placement as a practice simply of awareness. Just landing awareness that this is part of your body. It is yours to tend, yours to reclaim. Maybe noticing if your hand feels cool or warm. And if you're right away noticing in your system that this is not comfortable, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, you can move your hand. So as a practice of agency or inner authority, know that you get to choose. And while we're resting here, we continue that practice of noticing or observing. As I rest, I get to be with myself as I am. And I track and notice how my experience evolves, because it usually does. It usually does change moment to moment. Seeing if you can invite yourself into a quieter state. Dropping under the radar a bit in terms of day-to-day activities. Trusting again that this time is yours. I get to rest here. While we rest, we can let our breath do what it does. Knowing that there's nothing to fix or change or problem solve, that our body is not broken. Seeing if we can invite that sense of security within ourselves. I'm right with myself. Or if that statement doesn't yet feel completely true, how can this practice help me get right with myself, offer myself kindness and care? Enjoy that there's no hurry. We'll be here another little while. If you're sensing through your back body that there's a little pattern of arching or extension, you might just tuck in head to tail. Give yourself a little bit more relative flexion, that inward attention, curling into your belly center. Watching and enjoying the subtle rhythms of life, of breath that move all on their own. The pulse of your body's aliveness and presence. Before we mark this rest complete, while you're still resting, just bring awareness to your tongue, where or how your tongue is resting in your mouth. You're welcome to glide your tongue around the surface of your top teeth, kind of like sweeping your tongue from one side all the way around to the other side. If you did top teeth, then sweep along your bottom teeth or vice versa. Noticing the strength of your tongue, how far it can go, whether it feels familiar or oddly fatiguing, like, oh, I've never moved my tongue consciously before. Hello. And then when you're finding that you naturally swallow, start to track the sensation of your swallow down through your esophagus. Invite any movement that feels kind and generous, maybe like a little cat waking from its nap. That same principle of pendiculation, just moving how your body just naturally wants to. And there might be moments where you clench and tense and press or reach. There's no expectation or right or wrong way. And as you start to stir and awaken, we're eventually going to find our way up through the floor into hands and knees. You can give yourself some cushion for the shins. You can use blocks for your hands if that works best for you. Arriving into this weight-bearing place to be aware of, here I am in space. Here's my place in the room. And we're going to move from the tail. See if you can start to generate a little swish side to side through your tail. It might feel kind of fish-like. You might imagine that you have a tail that you could wag. A little side to side wave from the hips, from the tail, from the pelvis. And that will start to kind of ripple up through the rib cage and the rest of the spine. So you can let your head respond and follow along. If it feels awkward and different, great, well done. Just go with it, trust it, right? Like, okay, how do I move like a fish? How do I find this lateral movement? It might feel really delicious through your low back or up into the armpit and ribs. You might find a place where you want to hang out for a moment. Whatever it looks like matters less. Go with what it feels like. Good. Letting that swimming action slow down until you start to feel your midline, head to tail, neutral spine, back to center. And we're going to take a few cat-cows with the tongue movement that we did from seated. So as you curl head to tail, your tongue is touching the roof of the mouth. Coil the tail, coil the tongue. And then swing your tail back, eyes and chest forward, and stick your tongue out. Whatever amount your jaw says yes to. And then again, eyes down, tongue loops up into the roof of the mouth as you round. Head and tail swing back, and tongue comes out. Couple more rounds. Make it as small or big and ferocious as you would like. Letting your eyes come along with you. So gazing into the belly. And then see the world around you, the space above you. Good. Coiling in, we sit back now for child's pose for a moment. You can stack your hands, make a pillow for your forehead, or you might wrap your arms around your body alongside. You're welcome to bring in any of your props for support if you want. We'll be here just for a few breaths. Consider it like a big offloading of your roles, your responsibility. Like right now, I'm just curled into myself, present, pausing, and this is more than enough. More than enough for me to just be right here. If you can allow your belly to relax against your upper legs. Feeling the breath come in like a wave down through your back, your waist, into the pelvic bowl. expanding and condensing. If you're tracking something, if you sense that you need to stay as you are, please trust that. Please stay longer. And when you're ready, we'll set up for the second side. So resting into your left side, you can go ahead and just roll over. You don't have to face me if you feel okay without the visual cues or feedback. A little push for your rib cage. That helps to decrease any compression in the bottom shoulder. Head and neck is supported. Tuck yourself in for warmth. You can give yourself a blanket or towel or a burrito. Wrap yourself up. If you're comfortable without support between the shins, that's okay. Otherwise, give yourself a cushion or pillow between the knees and ankles. And again, you have the choice to place your hand somewhere on your body, maybe venturing towards low belly or cupping around the front part of the pelvic floor. For today's practice, your hand has no agenda. There's no poking, prodding, assessing, massaging. We're simply landing our awareness through making contact. Noticing if that sense of support or containment allows a certain response. Not that there's a right or wrong response, but becoming aware of our reaction or response to our own loving touch. A sense of connection or homecoming within yourself, within your own body, that this part too is me, it is mine, it is welcome. And if you're able to choose to soften or melt a little bit more, invite yourself to allow that. Could I trust that just for a little while, it's okay for me to surrender or soften or let my guard down? Maybe you feel that as a shape shifting in your belly muscles, a heaviness through your skull, softening your eyes and tongue. And again, know that you have full agency. You can keep your hand where it is or move next door, or let your arm rest and tuck in somewhere else. Trusting that when it's time, we will be able to pick up what needs doing, but for right now, we get to be. Right now, it's okay to go in a little more, to get a little quieter. And to listen to how the breath wants to move without any expectation. No need to override sounds or yawns or farts or drooling. Truly giving ourselves the gift. I get to be exactly how I am in this moment. For some of us, we might want to be still or remain still. Some of us may have been moving or rocking or feel interested in moving. And if that's the case, come back to the tailbone wagging kind of fish-like movement. Like if your tail were to sweep up into the top hip towards the ceiling, you'll feel the top side of your waist shorten and along the floor lengthens. And then if we swing the tail towards the ground, we feel the hips rock the other way. The underside of our waist gathers in, top hip lengthens away. Again, this can be very small and subtle, or bring you into some strong muscular effort if that feels good. A little rocking of the pelvis, like you're sweeping your tail side to side or taking little circles. Inviting movement that's initiated from the tailbone or a long metaphorical tail. And allowing the rest of your spine to undulate and follow along. Whatever the rest of the spine does is welcome in response to what your tail is up to. Letting this movement eventually invite you into bigger pandiculation, maybe reaching, yawning, pressing through the sole of the feet. Maybe opening into a twist or a spiral. Finding your unique way to express this moment. Stirring from rest, awakening the support of your body against the ground, and use that support to start to press your way up through seated. If you want to explore a few more cat-cows, feel free to come on over to tabletop. So you're going to do a little revisit of tongue coiled in, lion's breath, tongue sweeps out. You could also explore the lateral movement, fish-like movement, like a wave through the spine. You can lead with the tail or lead with the crown of your head. Using that prompt as a way to simply invite new movement. How else might I be free to move from tongue to tail in a way that's fluid, undulating, kind of silky, slippery, wave-like? Trusting that your body has a wisdom that you don't necessarily need to analyze or comprehend. Letting the body lead. Seeing if you can drop judgment, suspend thinking, and trust your body as she is. You might continue to explore. You might start to bring in a little bit more form and structure. Maybe that's table rocking. Maybe it's a downward dog. Maybe you rest in child's pose and come on down. So finding that connection, tongue to tail, long, supple, fish-like spine. And over the next few moments, in your own way, we're going to eventually find our feet coming to weight bearing. Eventually find your way back to standing and into your chair. Good. And sitting either how you started class, or perhaps coming a little bit forward so that you can feel the soles of your feet on the ground. Good. So arriving for a moment to notice, okay, how am I right now? What's different about my posture or my energy or my attention? And you might not have words for it, but see if you can call up the felt sense. What's pleasant about how I am now after this practice? Acknowledging your sit bones. If you'd like, you can bring one or both hands under your sit bones, giving yourself a little acknowledgement of that base of support. If your hand comes right to the inside surface of your sit bone, you can take a little swish or circling there. Again, you could roll a washcloth or have a balled up wool sock or a squishy ball that you could work with there as well, as long as this feels okay as a first step. So if your hand is already creating some tenderness, no need to go further or with a prop. And while I'm really letting my sit bone pour into the chair on that side, I'm noticing and allowing some length through my shoulder. Again, we might turn and gaze away or bring the chin down. Fine tune like the opening neck awareness. A little bit more space. Good. Go ahead and slide your hand out. Notice if you feel lopsided. So if there is a change, like, whoo, cool. Do I feel wide? Do I feel heavy? Do I feel spacious and tall? What is that I'm sensing? See if we can bring that to the other side as well. So second sit bone. You can bring your hand underneath. Give yourself a little lift and sit a few times, and then really sit into that hand like you're pouring the weight of that sit bone down. Maybe a little bit of circling of the tail or sit bone with your own touch. And again, the inner surface between sit bone and tail is where we start to make contact with the pelvic floor or pelvic diaphragm. And this should be totally tolerable, if not comfortable, pleasurable. If it's tender, do less or move your hand next door. Finding a moment to sit and acknowledge from jaw through the neck, down through the shoulder, that there's a little more length. Maybe you let the neck go away from the shoulder. And then slide your hand out or remove the prop, come back to your normal sit. Offer yourself gratitude. Taking a few moments of gratitude to close today's practice, to respect what has changed, and bring curiosity to anything that has not changed yet. Like, okay, this is a process. What is that part of me teaching me? Full, sincere, generous breath, washing in, and then when you breathe out, gentle bow, head to heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are complete for today. Thank you for joining for class live. If you're here, if you caught the replay, thank you for being here. And as always, write to me, whether it's comments in the portal or an email message. If you are here as a member, I welcome communication so that we can get to know each other, and that way we can better support you, right? We can make more personal recommendations and suggestions along the way. Okay. Thanks. See you next week for class 3 of 4.